our very delightful Mrs. Omowale David-Ashiru of the NewGlobe. She's been waiting very patiently since very early in the morning too. So, Mrs. David-Ashiru, you recall earlier in the conversation, we talked about different kind of data collected by different people. But in your opinion, how has all this data collection generated targeted, proper spending in the right places?
All right. Thank you very much. I stand on all established protocols. I've noticed that when people say they will answer, they will say they'll be very quick. They are never quick. So I won't say that so that I won't put myself on the spot. I work with NewGlobe, like she said, and we partner with visionary governments to transform public education. And I mentioned visionary governments because that's very important. It means governments, state governors, countries that are ready to put their money where their mouth is, right? And we do this at the basic education level. So primary, there's been a lot of talk about tertiary, but we focus a lot on primary, secondary, basic education, because if the foundation is broken,
yes,
we can't go anywhere. So foundational literacy and numeracy is an area that we're really focused on. And so before I get to you've asked a very pertinent question. Everybody's been talking about data, and I'm glad that the Honorable Commissioner from Bayelsa was able to explain about data. Why? I think we know why data is important, but you said we're getting data, and why aren't we, why isn't this linked to the outcomes?
Yes.
So sadly, a lot of the data that we're collecting is not data that drives learning.
I see.
Yes, we're talking about limited funds, right? And I spoke yesterday. Sorry if you were here yesterday, I don't have a new message. It's the same thing I'm going to say. Hopefully by the time I say it 7 times, we'll understand. It's not how much money you have, but how well you are spending the money. Make no mistake, the outcome of education, especially at the foundational level, is learning. That is what your return on investment should be. For every naira you spend, and for everyone who works with you, you should ask, how does this translate to learning? Sadly, a lot of the data in the EMIS that we have in states are measuring inputs, number of classrooms, staff list. Don't get me wrong, classrooms are needed, and I love the way the Deputy Governor of Lagos said it. Buildings don't teach.
No.
Classrooms don't teach. So if you have data that shows you that you have 100 classrooms, and you don't have data that tells you whether the 5,000 children in those classrooms are learning.
Can I quickly
Please do.
So when they're collecting that data, are you saying that at the point they're collecting, they don't ask you what you want data collected for? Is that a problem? They don't ask you, what do you want us to ask when we go out?
Well, no, we go in and we partner. And so we would even tell them the data that is necessary. So I'm talking about people that maybe we haven't started partnering with. You asked that generally. So what we see is that when we go to states, what we find is that people are trying. There's EMIS there, there's data. But if the data you're collecting is not linked to, remember I said return on investment, it's learning. If it's not data that is linked to learning, then you're collecting all this data, but it's not really telling you, showing that the money that you spent is resulting in it. So that's why I give examples. If you look at the EMIS, nothing against, those things, but staff list. So you know that you collect data on staff list, right? I have 5,000 teachers. If you don't have data on whether those teachers are in class, then it doesn't matter that you have data on the number of teachers. If you don't have data on whether they're teaching what they're supposed to be teaching, then you can't measure learning. Let me give an example, a personal example of mine. So when I was in primary school, to be honest, I sound very eloquent right now, don't I?
Yes.
Encourage me. Yes, I do. Even if you don't tell me, I know I do. But, back to this, and I say that for a point. Our education, and a lot of people have said this, is good. I will give that a caveat. I think that's maybe our curriculum. We have a very robust curriculum in Nigeria.
Yes.
I said about being eloquent. I am born, bred, proudly raised in Nigeria. I schooled in public schools, primary, secondary, university. I have been on global stages, but it was Nigeria that produced me. The first time I went to do any schooling outside of this country was last year. right? So we have a robust curriculum.
Yes.
That is not necessarily the issue. But back to data. So when I was in primary school, I didn't know I was intelligent. I mean, I was just going to school, public school, just going every day. And then it was time for common entrance, primary 6. And my mother got a teacher, a lesson teacher for me. And she used to come to the house every day, 2 o'clock. I would pray to God every day, God, let her be sick, let her not show up, because I didn't want the lesson. But without fail, this woman was there. 2 on the dot, she would have knocked the door. And she took me in the lessons. At the end of that, I did my common entrance, and I got the highest in my school and the highest in my state. Before then, I was like, oh my God, I'm intelligent. I didn't know that.
You didn't know.
But why am I saying this? Because she showed up every day. Now, the data you should be measuring is, are your teachers showing up every day? Teacher attendance. For instance, one of the states that we worked in earlier on, and I will mention the state because the state has done very well. Dr. Padi Yamu is here. So, yes, I'm going to put you on the spot. With Edo. Edo started off, I think at the time of Governor Oshiomhole, doing very well. Infrastructure, the Red Roof Project, got the attention of international donors, right? But in terms of data, there was still more that needed to be done. So when we got in there, introduced data, the first thing we found out was teacher attendance was 0.1%. 0.1%. Now, this is not to knock down teachers. My mother was a public school teacher for 30 years. Teachers are not showing up for various reasons.
Yes.
Maybe not empowered enough, maybe not paid enough. People have to hustle. But the point is 0.1%. So if you have 0.1%, how are the pupils learning? Within 1 term of their transformation, putting in data, tracking attendance went to 98%. Ladies and gentlemen, without changing anything else, children started learning in 1 term what used to take them 1 year to learn, just because teachers were available. And why were they available? Because the data was tracking that. So that's one thing. We need to measure the right data. The other thing I would say about the data, we're collecting data, but the data comes in too late. With all due respect, reports that come in, your EMIS, your SEMIS, LURITs, we have all sorts of them, come in at the end of the month when the issue happened 4 weeks ago, is not useful. If a teacher has not shown up, or a pupil, like the commissioner said, did not come to school for 1 week, but let me use the teacher. A teacher did not show up for 1 week. All those children have lost 50 hours. 1 week, let's even just say 1 week. They have lost 50 hours of instruction. And the reports we have now, I mean, the manual, whatever, that are not digital, you don't get that information at the ministry level until the end of the month. You can't get that back.
So you're always playing catch up.
You are playing catch up. So real-time data is important. That's the kind of data you should be paying for. You should be paying for systems that can show you right now, is the teacher in class? Right now, are they teaching what they should teach? Right now, is the pupil there? And if they're not there, you should have the data to be able to call, like he gave the example.
Excellent.
We've seen that, even I think it was in Lagos, where the governor was able to call a teacher.
Yes.
Mrs. So, I see you are not in school today. Imagine how that teacher felt. I mean, not necessarily afraid, but that means they care.
Yeah.
So data that is showing up at the right time, that's important as well. I think I'll just stop there for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. David-Ashiru.